What's up guys, here we are, it's Thursday, that is Bungie's TWID day. Do you remember Bungie renamed the TWID, or the TWAB, to be the TWID? And so we would hope we'd get lots of Destiny news in a TWID. Bungie do initially have a couple of updates regarding Arms Week, they fixed it. Separately, of course, over the weeks there's been growing anticipation and, well, players are hoping to get some updates regarding the future of the game, or even announcements about delays, the timing of the next content drop, all that stuff we've been going on about. Yeah, I know. Hopefully this week we will get some details because, as we've discussed in the last couple of days, even more rumours have started to circulate about Shadow and Order. Bungie actually extended the Eververse calendar for the season, all the way up until April 28th, so given that that calendar also shows Guardian Games starting on the 3rd of March, players have taken it as a kind of soft confirmation of what we kind of already knew. So hopefully we're going to get some clarity about it today. Please, Bungie, I said that last week, man. Everyone thinks I'm crashing out. Maybe I am. Or maybe I won't be at the end of this video. Let's see how it goes, shall we? If you enjoy it, a rating would really help us out. But now, let's get into it. The first thing we should touch on, with Arms Week dropping this week, there was a bug where the combat telemetry actually dropping in the game was the wrong version. Ada 1 didn't want to accept it for rewards, which is not ideal, given that that's one of the primary reward sources. But the studio have now said issues impacting combat telemetry for Arms Week have been resolved, and players should be able to exchange the currency with Ada 1 in the shooting range. So good luck on the hunt now, we can go after the weapons a bit more easily. Let us know any good ones you've picked up, or indeed if you've tried the Warlord's Ruin challenge this week in the comments section. Next up though, we get into the TWID for the week. So, for the quick rundown, they say this week in Destiny, arrows have been shot across the sky and into our Guardians' hearts. Arms Week has returned, more on that in a moment. Otherwise, they're discussing a test they're launching in the Lawless Frontier next week, the Game to Give livestream, and yes, they go over Arms Week, Dark Age Hunt, double invasions coming to Lawless Frontier, Oath of the Renegades results, more new player guide stuff, and a server test that they'll be throwing into the game in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll explain the kind of heads up and warnings about that. But yeah, on the subject of roadmaps, delays, schedules, all those kinds of things, I'm staying calm, but we don't hear any bigger kind of conversations or announcements as part of this TWID, so I may as well put that up front. I'm not going to complain about it any more than I already have been. The one thing I will say for folks who say, why aren't you more patient? Which I totally understand, there once was a time where we just played video games and had fun, right? I think the unique component for the community at the moment is the fact that Bungie were the ones that kind of initiated this promise about a state of the game and a roadmap for Destiny, right? And to an extent, some of the frustration that we see from players actually comes from that. And as I've said, I think it's definitely valid to feel that frustration because players are invested in this game. Bungie, to their credit, have given us a lot of content over the years, a fair amount of communication in lots of instances, albeit not always perfect. And the sense is that we're just not getting that communication at the minute, which is why you do see those complaints. So that's all I've really got to say about it. The other things of note that they talk about in the TWID, of course, is the return of Arms Week. So it's now live. We've got Medieval hardware and Rumble hardware as two of the kind of PvP game modes for it. Of course, King Orfeo and the Heron as the featured weapons. Plus, as we discussed, Bungie fixed the issue with the combat telemetry thing, so Arms Week for the moment continues as intended. Otherwise, there's also the Dark Age Hunt, requiring or asking players to complete Warlord's Ruin using only bows, glaives, and swords as a solo completion. If you do that this week before the 3rd of February, you'll unlock access to the Fallen Torches emblem. They haven't actually confirmed when we'll get that emblem, so it won't necessarily be immediately next week. There could be a bit of a delay there. And that's further indicated because they speak about Oath of the Renegades, the competition they ran with community creators last year before the end of the Renegades kind of launch phase, and it was basically to see which faction players would score the most for during the event. Now that it's been completed, Piker's actually got the win, and Bungie say they've unlocked the Take the Mantle emblem for everyone with a shiny Piker icon. The emblem will be made available to everyone through a code later this year, and given they'd announced this already last year, it's kind of wild that they're saying later in the year. It's a bit vague, obviously. That could mean in March or in April, or it could mean in August, who knows? But 2026 game update for later in the year mentioned. Oh my god, expansion confirmed. Okay, I'll rein it in a bit. Now, onto this double invasion thing. Bungie say in the Lawless Frontier, there's a strong possibility that your job will be invaded by another player. As an invader, you can usually queue into an already active job filled with 3 other players, but sometimes an invader can queue into another invader's job, resulting in the 1v1 scenario. And they basically say there's been a lot of feedback about how often this is actually happening, the double crosses. So next week, they plan to conduct a test, allowing a job to be invaded up to 2 times during each Lawless Frontier run. The goal is to reduce the number of double cross invasions, but also also to better assist fire teams, and they'll receive 3 additional revive tokens for each invasion. So if you're in a run and revive tokens are low, an invasion can actually give you some breathing room if your team is good enough to defeat the invader. And so essentially, during each Lawless Frontier run, it will be possible next week to actually be invaded more than once, but I guess it's a maximum of 2 times, and they add that only 1 invader can be on the map at any given time. So the test will run from February 3rd at the weekly reset up until Feb 10th, and it will be available on Grandmaster difficulty runs of Lawless Frontier that have the invasion modifier active. I personally don't mind that, to be fair. Some players will perhaps like it less. I actually jumped back into Lawless Frontier after a couple of weeks without playing it, because to be honest, I absolutely smashed my way through Renegades. I played a lot in the first kind of month of it being available, and I absolutely love that game mode. I think it's one of the best things Bungie have done in Destiny 2, genuinely. I'd really love it if we had some kind of a loot update for it or something like that, but I guess you could apply that to a lot of the game at this precise moment. Either way, double invasions next week, and give us your thoughts about it down below. Otherwise, for Trials this week, apologies about my dodgy voice here, I feel like I'm losing it again, but the classic Midtown map will be featured in Trials, and the Martlet Pulse is returning for this particular weekend. So if you fancy some Midtown Trials, or indeed the Pulse Rifle, it will be a good weekend to jump in. Just keep in mind, everyone's going to be running that Arms Week bow mod that lets you one-shot other players, unless Bungie, ban it or something. They haven't announced that here, so you probably will see quite a lot of it if you head into Trials this weekend, but share your thoughts about that below. Otherwise, they're going to be conducting some server testing soon. So they say we want to give an early heads up about upcoming server testing that we'll be conducting to gather data on minor backend changes. While we normally wouldn't post about this, we anticipate this test might impact some players. So starting at 11 AM Pacific on Thursday, February 5th, we'll temporarily be switching on a server setting aimed at improving backend world server performance. During this time, players may see more guitar errors across Destiny 2, especially in longer running tower instances. This is an expected test outcome that we're looking to resolve in a future update, and it's a key part of the data that we're collecting. The test should only run for a few hours and will provide an additional reminder on the day. So just keep that in mind next Thursday, I believe. And I wonder if this is about, some kind of improvement that they're making generally on this engine and with their servers. Of course, there's a component where they may also be doing it to benefit Marathon in some way ahead of that launch, because that's coming up in less than a month. We've got the open beta in probably 2 or 3 weeks from now. So just something to keep in mind. And finally in the TWID, they mentioned the Game to Give finale livestream, which is currently live, at least at the time that I'm making this video, so they're auctioning off some pretty interesting Bungie-related items in general. Also, the voice actors for Lodi, Brian Villalobos and Todd Habercorn, who plays the Drifter, will be on set with some shenanigans, so if you want to check that out, it's linked down below. And of course, donations support a good cause. And so, we come to the end of another TWID. Let me know your thoughts on how this one went and how things are going down in the comment section. Otherwise, I guess I'm kind of done, man. I'll let today's blog events sink in before we talk anymore. But if you want to stay up to date with Destiny content, and indeed Bungie news, even Marathon occasionally, maybe, then hit subscribe down below. Share your thoughts as always, and drop us a rating if you're feeling kind as well. But otherwise, cheers for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.